those are the environments where these companies are completely failing. Look, you can have the best product, you can have the best service, and if you don't get real with your emotions and your numbers, your business is not going to succeed. So we actually never allow ourselves to understand, how does my brain work? What is my energy level? If you are not acknowledging that this is also making a decision for you in your business, you're going to fail. Start early as possible. People think they can figure things out really quick and start making money. That's not, just do it.
Welcome everyone, Chris Bushstein here, best known as Los Cabra, here from Launch Studios on the heart of Berlin. We are on a new episode of Backstage Breakdown. Today I have a really interesting guest in front of me, Ricardo Brito. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Christian. So nice to be here today, and thank you so much for the invitation. Really looking forward for our talk.
I've been really looking forward for this interview because I found you extremely fascinated. I met him some weeks ago at the Venture Cafe of the CIC co-working space, and he had a stand. He was talking about solopreneurship, and that is a universe itself. If you have to define yourself, I know part of your history, but for the people that didn't know you, who are you? What do you do?
But so I help first-time solopreneurs building their first business. Basically, people are leaving corporate and they want to build their first solo business. They are not entrepreneurs, they are not freelancers, they're a very particular kind of professional. And I have the suspicion you are on that category.
I am. But I don't know if I am there because I wanted to be there or because there was no other way. For me, coming from Argentina, we're just living in a different reality that is crisis. If it's not financial, it's economic, it's social, we live in a constant crisis. And at the time that I was 18 years old, there were no jobs. It was part of the big 2000-2001 crisis. And I think that the Argentines, we have that level of resilience because we have to do something because there's no other way. That is a different story, I think, that for the Europeans, because I know that you have your corporate life, things were going well, and you actively decide that this is not a path that I want anymore.
Yeah, well, as the Germans would say, jein, yes and no. Because I relate to what you're saying. I'm Portuguese. Of course, we didn't got as bad as Argentina, but I grew up in the generation that 80% of my generation didn't have a job. Big economic crisis. So I relate really well with this idea of, you need to get your shit together. In Portugal, we have this saying, if I'm allowed to say, which is unsheet yourself, which is you need to figure it out. So that's how I did it, right? And like many others. My corporate career started in Germany, and where I had like 12 years of product design and innovation and service design and all of that. In a way, was 50%, I decided to not have it anymore, but I was also pushed to it. Because on one hand, I was tired of this corporate career. I couldn't believe in it anymore. I couldn't emotionally, ethically, I couldn't find a motivation to keep working in that industry for a while. But I didn't know what to do. So I had a burnout, and for these 8 months, I had no idea what to do with my life. And I was trying, I sold meatballs from my home just because I want to have a restaurant, which I didn't. It was a terrible idea. But at the same time, I was always afraid to have my own business because I grew up in the family business and I hate it. It was always a point of discussion, was always a point of quarrels, was always a point of fear because you never know if you're going to get money tomorrow. So I found myself figuring out that it might be the time to do it because the pain of being in the corporate world was too big to keep it. And I said, I'm going to try this.
What were the pain points that make you decide that you didn't want to be in a corporation anymore? Because mostly, more than the job, it's about the crew dynamics. It's what happened between people or how do we treat each other.
Yeah.
What was happening?
I think you're going to relate a lot to this because you do this kind of work in a different context, but the problems are very similar. At the end of the day, it's about people, it's about leadership, it's about how you live your values, it's about how you communicate. And I have to say, a lot of these tech companies, they claim some values, but they live completely others. So there is a misalignment and a cognitive dissonance between what we say and what we do. And at a certain point, maybe you can tolerate that for a couple of years, but at a certain point, you cannot agree and cooperate with that anymore, which was my case. I think poor leadership in tech, it happens way too often, and there's very poor management of people. There's very short-sighted strategies. And I think all of that contributes to a climate where people are not motivated. People are not doing work that matters. You often spend more than 50% of your time fighting politics instead of actually doing your job. In the case, I was a designer. So in that case, like I spend my whole life, and any designer does that, justifying why am I here in the first place so I can work. I think those problems are so prevalent all across that I summarize it: bad leadership, short-sightedness, very much looking at rapid profit with very little sustainability in mind. And I'm not saying even ecological sustainability, I'm saying even business and people sustainability. And that trickles down to team dynamics of people not talking to each other, not doing the right things, being demotivated, and just looking at their own interest.
But you hold into that job for like 7 years, no?
12.
12, wow.
I must admit that the first half of it was in an excellent company that I take it as the example of how a company should be, was Futurize, which was like an agency, is still an agency in Europe, Finnish one. And that's what I learned of what a right company should look like and what right leadership should look like, and doing the right things and how to actually take care of the people and being a fair company. Another jobs was not the case. But I think that's where it kicks our background, which is I couldn't question. I had a job. I was getting well paid. Like I cannot go, oh, I'm going to do my own thing and just choose because I become an immigrant to have a better life. So there was this emotional dissonance between me. It's like, I don't want this, but okay, it pays the bills and but at the same time, I cannot cooperate with this anymore. So what do I do? So, and I think my body my mind had to crack for me to take the decision. You know what? This cannot go, because if I continue, in 2 years I have no health, and then I can do absolutely nothing. So I need to think about what I'm going to do next.
What are the things that you think that worked super well the first company and so bad on the second?
The first one, I think, great leadership.
What is great leadership for you?
For me, great leadership was the three founders that founded the company were there for 20 years in the leadership of the company, in terms of on the C-level, and the commitment they had with the people, and the commitment they had to do good work and having the best place to work was beyond exceptional. For me, it was shocking that how can I be working in a company of 500 people and the CEO has time to talk with me? That creates legends, because the leadership is right there, right? Everybody had a saying. Of course, at the end of the day, somebody needed to make decisions, but the decisions were transparent. The decisions were transparent, but everybody had the saying. If you were an intern, you had as much of a saying as if you were the CEO. Everybody would listen to you. So a lot of these created an environment that we do what is good for the company, because I know that the company is also doing what is good for me. I grew in my career, I grew in my income, I was always being invested in things. And when we had to have to make sacrifices for the company, which we had many times, because believe me, opening a company, a new brand in Germany, that was the top brand in Finland, you arrive to Germany, nobody cares because nobody knows you. Yeah. So we were opening that business here. And at that point, of course, I was not the main person of doing that, but I enter at that stage, and there was a lot of challenges and there was a lot of sacrifices we needed to do. But it was clear, nobody was forcing you to. Everybody's like, we need to do it because X, Y, and Z, because we don't have money. We need to accept this project because, this project needs to give income to this office for now. So nothing was pushed. There was no political games. Decisions were clear. Mission was very clear. And everything was transparent. First time that I could go into a spreadsheet and I know how much anybody makes in the company. There was no sexism in that regard, or there was no discrimination. Everybody was measured by the same measure. All of that created an environment that, it's been like 8 years after, and I still defend that company from my heart.
And what do you see on the other company?
In other companies, I think what we see is a lot what we see in many other companies. We see that leadership tended to be very much self-centered, a lot of hierarchy, a lot of short-sightedness in terms of strategy. Like, it was the success of the company was measured in quarters instead of measuring in decades, which I think was the difference from the previous companies. And clarity of who we actually are and what we actually want to do and where we actually want to go. Not a strong cohesion. We talk a lot about culture, right? And culture is a huge thing about what's culture. For me, culture is what kind of behaviors do you allow inside of an organization? If you tolerate abuse, that's your culture. If you don't tolerate abuse, that's culture. Are you transparent? That's culture. It's not team events, it's not these fancy things. It's just like about what kind of behavior do you allow in a company. And I think in many tech companies, the behaviors that are allowed, they don't contribute for a good culture. Is backstabbing, is political games, is very short business goals that are measured in quarters that make everybody working mindless for some numbers that make absolute no sense, but they make sense for the shareholders. Those are the environments where these companies are completely failing.
But do you think it is possible to create a company culture without seeing the numbers?
No, but there is ways to go about the numbers, right? Like there is ways to go about the numbers. You can make short-term sacrifices for long-term gains. But what I'm seeing is like looking at the short-term gains, sacrificing the long-term health of the company. So it's not about it's how we deal with the numbers. I'll tell you a story. At a certain point, we were having issues at Futurize, where the numbers were not that great at that point because it was very in the early days. And I remember that in Berlin office we had a couple of projects that we were, not too happy about it. Like nobody was really happy about handling doing these projects, but we had to do it. It was the only thing we had. So, and everybody was being cuddled, and everybody was like being well compensated for doing these projects. But there was a lot of, I don't like this, I don't like that, complaining about the client. And we had this dinner, the Christmas dinner. I remember the managing director goes, "Okay, guys, and girls and women, and we sit down," and he lists all these projects. Okay, project A, 1 million. Project B, 3 million. Okay, you don't want this? Fine. You don't want this? Fine. You want this? Fine. There is $500,000. What can I do with $500,000? We need to fire all of you and close shop. We are not forcing you to do this, but we cannot do anything else.
Yeah.
That's very different from you need to build this feature. You need to fire these people. You need to do this. And you don't understand why. What they want is to raise the price of the evaluation or reduce the cost so the numbers look better at the spreadsheet at the end of the quarter. And you are doing mindless things for somebody else to look good on paper, but the company is actually being brought to the ground.
Yeah.
Same numbers, dealt totally different.
Yeah. So that goes to, it's not what we are saying, it's how we're saying it. That explanation that grounds what they want to do.
Yeah. It's communication, is being honest, is being transparent. And I think that one of the things that is hard for tech companies is that they promise this, magic place where everything is, nobody needs to do sacrifices and everything is great and you can grow your career and we pay you a lot of money. But we also need to talk about the sacrifices that companies need to have. Why are we so afraid of talking about money to people? Like, we shouldn't be. We should be honest about that. We should be honest about the numbers. That's what I have with my clients. Look, you can have the best product, you can have the best service. If you don't understand your numbers and if you don't get real with your emotions and your numbers, your business is not going to succeed. And I think that kind of work is not happening at many levels of leadership in many companies.
Going to what you just said, that about your new clients, because you are the co-pilot and you help people just to navigate this situation of a new life, of solopreneurship. Some years ago, I heard this phrase that I think it makes sense. It's like, go alone, you will get there fast. Go together, you're going to get there long. So it's important, even when you do something alone, you have people around, people that help you, or clients, or providers, or service. It's not easy for someone that is coming from a company that is start this journey of solopreneurship on a place that you work, or we have to work many hours alone, and then we have to get out and we have to look for services or clients. What is your coach, your advice for people on how to navigate all this?
Well, that's a very
sorry
packed up question.
Yes, sorry.
No, I like the space. I think the first thing is that one needs to understand that this is a transition. There is at least two types of transition happening at the same time, or even more. But there is a transition from employee to business owner, and that's huge, because in the employee world, you tend to be an expert. You do your job to the best of your ability, but you have a structure around it that allows you to do your job. You have a team, you have roadmaps, you have somebody that pays your income, somebody takes care of your taxes. You need to show up and do your job. As a business owner, that doesn't happen. Your job is 50%. What you're going to sell and do is 50% of your time. The rest of the time is thinking about the strategy, taking care of the numbers, doing, admin, at least initially, right? Then you can hire people. But this transition is the hardest, and is the hardest mindset, because you need to think as a business owner. You cannot think about as an expert. And I work with a lot of creatives and designers who tend to not be the most numbers versed people. So that's, for example, one of the hardest things to overcome is just like, I need to take care of the numbers. Yes, we need to take care. And that's going to hurt, because it's going to trigger your money beliefs. It's going to trigger all the traumas you have in relation to money. It's going to expose everything that is underneath that, the lack of self-belief, the lack of, being afraid of failure in front of people. So is the first piece of advice I have is just be open, because this is a huge transition. It's not just strategic, it's not just sales, it's a spiritual to a certain point, but it's definitely an emotional and an identity transition that needs to be navigated the best way possible. And the first step is to acknowledge that.
And how people react to that? What's their first impression? Because, for example, for me in the music industry, it was always, I wish that my entire job is just to make music and play music, and that's it. And then you realize that that is 30% of our job, and then it's all these little tasks that you just mentioned. How is with your clients? What do they do, or how do they feel about this?
First of all, it's a filter for the ones who are in this for real or not. Because some people go, okay, the amount of work and effort that I want to put into this does not compensate what I'm going to get out of it, which is fair. It's totally fair, You don't need to do it. Like, if you realize this is not the path, and it's totally okay. But then there are the people who understand that, go through a hard period of acceptance, and then they double down, and it's like, okay. And that's where you can see the shift, right? Of identity, being like, okay, I'm doing this for real, and this is my new reality, and this is my new identity. I think how you can go about it is step by step, not overwhelm. It's not everything feels, once you have this realization, is that everything feels that urgent. I need to take care of operations. I need to take care of sales. I need to take care of content. I need to take care of service. No. Now your job is to think about what is the most impactful thing that you can do, and what is the sequence of those things. That So that's one very practical way that I get with clients is that, yeah, you have all of these to figure out, but not all of this is important all at the same time. And it feels like
Yeah, the classic Eisenhower matrix. You know, it's about importance and urgency.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And people realize that difference between importance and urgency, because, for example, neurodivergent people with ADHD or autism or on the spectrum, what do we have to do? Everything. When? Now.
Yeah.
And
I know. I'm ADD, so and a lot of my clients are neurodivergent.
Yeah. Sorry, I want to add this. It's something that we talk a lot about here is that in the normal world, 15 to 20% of the world is neurodivergent, but in the creative sector, it's between 50 and 60%. So we cannot use the same recipes for people that we're not the same.
No, true. So I can tell you how I do it for myself and how other people do it. Like for me, I tried all kinds of efficiency systems and project management systems and so on. And you know what? It doesn't work for me. I'm a paper person. There's nothing that beats paper. Like I have lists, and I know ADD people are known for 1,000 lists and not following up with anyone, but I actually follow through them, but I have it always in front of me. And every single day, the day before, I go through the list and I put it in different buckets. Maybe that's a bit of the OCD part, but I put it in different buckets and I prioritize it on paper. And then I know exactly what I need to do next tomorrow. So that's on the most granular level. But I think on the big scheme of things, what was a game changer, and I think what's a game changer for people that I've worked with, is understanding how you work. A lot of us don't understand how we work. Also because we were forced during our employee life to have a certain routine that was not ours. So we actually never allow ourselves to understand, how does my brain work? What is my energy level? For example, I always thought I was a night person. I was not a night person at all. I was always a morning person. I just didn't like to admit that. I do my best work between 7:30 and 11. I can do a day's work there. But I only discovered that by experience, by mapping this out. So I map out with clients, when do you have energy during the day? During the week, when do you have energy? How is the week? Like for me, for example, I need to take a day off on Thursdays. A day off doesn't mean I don't work. I just don't do client work. I don't do client work on Mondays. I don't do client work on Fridays. I work Tuesday and Wednesday, sometimes on Fridays. But I need to have these buffers. But I understood that that is my energy levels. That is where my brain is. At Monday mornings, I don't want to deal with anybody else. I need to do the boring stuff, getting out of the way. I do the admin, the taxes, everything that you shouldn't be doing on a Monday. Hey, but Mondays suck. So I make it suck double, get it out of the way.
But then you know that everything that comes during the week is going to be better than what happened on Monday.
Yeah.
Is eat that frog.
Yeah, exactly. But that works for me, right? It doesn't work for clients, for other people. But that's fine. But I think what's important, I have this diagram where we go, look at your day. When is your energy peaks? And then we map out when you should be doing things. Because if you are trying to force something on the morning because that's what you used to do in a job, why are you doing it now? Your whole point of having your own business is to do whatever you want.
That is amazing. How did you get to that realization point that it's beautiful? I wish I can have, for example, I follow the Pomodoro recipes. I put it online and it's 25 minutes or 30 minutes. And then I have to make a pause. But I'm in the middle of something. I cannot do the pause.
Yeah.
But how do you get the discipline for that?
Like it or not, and this is the irony of neurodivergent people. It is like we hate routines, but we need them more than anyone else. So, and the thing is that we are afraid that, if I create this routine, it's going to limit my creativity. It's going to limit my flow. It's just like, no, because even good artists have a routine. I love the fact that, Nick Cave, I like when he says, I get up, I go to the office, I sit in front of the desk. Maybe I write, maybe I don't, but I'm there. And this is, for me, is the same, right?
Show up is 90% of the job.
Show up, but program. Like, for example, for me, I take the Thursday off, and Thursdays can be a wild day. I can do content, I can do nothing, I can do, I don't know, strategy. I can work on my products. It's a free day. So I designed the day in my week where I can do whatever. I mean, it needs to be aligned with my business, but if aligned with my business is taking like an afternoon off to go to the cinema because I need to rest my mind, I will. But I have that buffer. So for the other days, I don't need to worry, oh, when am I gonna get time for creativity? Oh, but now I'm flowing to this. No, I have Thursday, a full day to do this, you know? I don't need to keep my mind stressed. Oh man, I need to do my taxes. Oh, I need to do these invoices. I need to do, because that takes away my creative juices. So I think us neurodivergent people, we need to take all the blockages and put that and do the things that we need to do. So we then have space to do and to be free in our creative flow. Otherwise, we are just juggling a bunch of chaotic balls, and that doesn't make us our flow better.
There's a tattoo, also like a meme that I saw a long time ago, that instead of saying like ACDC, it says ADHD.
Yeah.
It says highway to, hey, look at that squirrel. And I thought it was beautiful. It was perfect. Explains everything. And you say that you're working with neurodivergent people.
Yeah.
How do you explain these kind of things? Because this is what happens on my end. When I have a project and I have to deliver and I have to provide and I have to make things done, I feel, and I know that it's a mistake, I feel that I don't deserve to have that buffer day in the middle of the week just to push my creativity or anything. And I feel that guilt that I need to deserve this time for me. And probably it's the same for some of your clients or maybe on your own experience.
I'm glad you brought that up. I think, I mean, this can take a different turn, but where is that even coming from? That pressure. Where is the pressure of, I should be doing this for myself? Why is the pressure of, where is that guilt coming from?
Of course, it's our own ego and it's our own super choice in Spanish, that it's the should be. We have all these social or moral or familiar preconcepts of how things should be.
Yeah.
And I know that is wrong, but some things are so engraved in the core of our system that, at least for me, it's really hard to break that through, even though that in my conscious mind I know that is the way.
Yeah. Action is the only thing that changes behavior. I was a very intellectual driven person, very brainy. It's like I like to think that I think my way through things, that I change my mind and my beliefs and my feelings through thinking through them. It's not true. I only started to change once I started to act accordingly, even if this is uncomfortable, right? And trying to demystify what's behind. I was so fed up with tech that I got really radicalized in workers' rights and efficiency, and now we came to working in the name of efficiency and always be efficient all the time and being productive. That I understand now the layers, the political layers, the social layers, the educational layers that I have on me that make me feel guilty for not working a Monday morning if I can. So I think having that intellectual framework did help me, because I can put a name and I can say, oh, okay, this comes from there, and I can understand how this trickled down into me. But on another hand, it's just, okay, I understand that, but I still feel guilty. So I just need to expose myself and do it often and often. For example, today, I couldn't work today. I went to the gym, I got late, I had to come here. So for me, it felt I lost an hour and a half, and I was feeling guilty. Because it's Monday, I should be doing stuff, because it's been like, I don't know, 15 years of that in the employed world, in my employed life. So, but I need to consciously say, no, it's okay. You have this job because you designed it to be. You can afford to not work an hour and a half on a Monday and come here and do this and go to the gym because your health is important. So even after years of this, I still have this in my mind, but I think it's just a relationship with it changes the more you practice what you want to see.
But it took you some time. How can you explain that to the new people that your pilots, as you're the co-pilot on this journey? How can you explain that to them in a way that they will say, okay, I need to take these steps and I need to have this space on my mind to create something bigger?
We design it together. We design it together because it's not a fit-all solution, right? What works for you might not work for me or for the person next to us. So it's trying to understand what would be a good experience. Design it really, like take a day off in the middle of the week. You think that you are, taking off, not working hard for your business. Take a day off and really sit with those feelings. Really sit with everything that goes into your mind, and then go work the next day and see how does it feel to work after a day of rest? How much did you got done? Is letting your brain register this, like giving hard proof to your brain that what you do is actually positively impacting you. So it's creating this. I have people who work 24/7, but sometimes that's not the best work because you are tired, you are irritable, and when you are the only decision maker, you really need to take responsibility for your health and for your mind and for your body. So some people start designing that early on, and some people go there, okay, I need to really change because the pain is too big. This is a process. This is a process of communication. This is a process of getting these experiences down.
Even you wrote a manifesto with
Yeah.
these concepts. Was that based on your own experience or your experience after treating or helping other creators on their journeys?
So I just want to say I don't treat anybody because I'm
Yeah.
just to make it clear.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of in this industry that can be a bit misleading. It's both. It's my experience, but it's the experience of many people. A lot of people come to me because they have similar experiences to the one I had. So in terms of meaning, in terms of disappointment with the industry, in terms of being fed up and trying to make it more sustainable for themselves in the future. So it's a shared experience.
You mentioned on the first company that you had that it was amazing to have transparency.
Yeah.
And now you have your clients, and you said that your clients, they had probably a similar experience than yours. And there's like a sales funnel where these people are just prospects that they see what you do, and they get that level of empathy, and they said, this is a guy that might help me. Yeah? Because also it's not easy to accept help. And then it's you start the transition phase, and then you're working together. It's like two minds trying to get something new. How is your dynamic facing all these situations that they might include the ego of one or the other, one that needs help and accept that it needs that help, and the other one that is coming as a facilitator with new ideas? How is your process to say, like, in a nice way, what I'm saying is because I'm an expert and because I know what I'm doing, and the other person to accept that?
I don't have that problem.
Okay.
And I think I don't have that problem because people come on their own will. I'm not convincing anyone, which I think is different for the work that you do, for example, and when you go to companies, I think there you might suffer more resistance. Then you might suffer more, we don't want you here, or your value might be threatening for some egos and for some people. I don't know.
Yeah. But what I feel in some situations, it's even the people that wants to get help, first they get an armor, get some defense on a way that they're okay to accept help, but first they want to convince you that what they're doing is right.
Yeah, fair enough. So I'm no one to go. I'm in no position to say what they are doing is wrong. I mean, I think there are ideas that I can question if they are more sustainable than others, because of scalability or because of the concept or some constraints that they might have. But I don't need to convince people. I don't need to say that they are wrong. I think a lot of the challenges that sometimes they suffer, we talk through them. Look, if you really believe that this is the right idea for your product, you are the founder. I gave you my opinion. I gave you maybe the ideas why this could not work. But if you have very strong reasons to make it work, okay, then let's make it sure that what can we maximize for this to work, and we do it together. And if it fails, what can you learn from that? Because it's all learnings. Look, I'm a very resistant person to change. It might not look like, but I am. I'm the first one to say, no, I don't want that. Like, believe me, I'm not a great client because I'm very resistant to my own to change. But in the end, what I learned also with the people that help is like, I cannot force you to do it. You need to go through yourself. I wasted a lot of money to paying to people to say no to them when they wanted just to help me, and I'm paying them to help me, and I go, no. I had to learn by myself. It's not something that they could not convince me to say, I'm an expert. Yeah, well, I know you are an expert. I pay you, but I don't like what you're saying to me. So I know firsthand that I cannot convince anyone, but I can help them trying to make the best decision that they can. And even if I don't agree with them, or even if I'm not the one believing in that in the first place, but I might be wrong anyway. And my job is to make them learn, if it fails, what can you learn from it so it's not a wasted decision.
Do you have, without saying the client or the topic, do you have any situation that you can give us as an example?
Well, I think, I will not mention, but in general, I think there is a certain resistance and it was for me the same, and is a very common one. You come with the idea, this is what my product should look like. This is what my service should look like. And sometimes reality says, no, people are not interested in that, or the format is wrong, or you wanted to do something that was like passive income, which, by the way, there's never something like passive income, but, more passive than always active. And you realize, but that's not enough to make money. I also need to be active and offer services in person or doing something else. Yes. So that's a tough point, right? That's a point of resistance even for me sometimes. You just get better at it, right? You put something out there and it goes, it doesn't work. People don't like it. Format is wrong. So that resistance happens a lot. And I think that's why it's important to be client-centered. Their clients, not my client, the client-centered, and test it as soon as possible. So, for example, I have this program, the 0 to 1. You work 4 months with me, but you don't wait 4 months to go out in the world and try to sell your product. No, you do that after a month. I mean, depends on how far you are in the development, but often in a month, you have a slide deck, you have all your tools to go and put this in front of clients, because they're going to tell you if the price is right, if the product is right, if the service is right. So to overcome this problem, it's about experimentation. It's about getting validation and putting the opinions.
Like MVP, validation, iteration, all over.
But I'm curious, how do you do it with your clients? Because you probably suffer a lot of resistance, even if the ones who want to change.
The way that I do it, first, I ask the team leaders, where do they see their friction points? And then I have a series of questions, and then I ask the same questions to the team leaders or to the crew. And normally, what both ends think, it's totally different. So then I go back to the leaders, and then I say, well, I see some common grounds on different points of the crew. And the first thing is like, no, it's not true. It's not happening. But I think it's a process. It takes time, because we're not designed to accept that level of criticism to us, not to our projects. So, and then I just say, okay, well, as you said before, this is what I see. I don't have any stakes in play. So if you do it or not, for me, it's absolutely the same. But this is what your team is saying. And I think that you as a team can improve if you make some ticks and tricks. Because if you're still here, not everything is destroyed, not everything is so bad. There's always time for improve. Yeah. And then you go with first of all, with a report to the team leaders, and then with a couple of recipes or ideas, advices that they can do to improve the situation. And then we gather all that together, we make a plan, and that comes back to the team. And then you just start to implement those changes. I can give you an example. Some month ago, I worked with a construction team from one of the biggest stage at Garbage Festival.
Yeah.
And in the individual interviews, there are many things that came up that they were super easy to fix. Super easy to fix. But the things that before that, nobody gave them visibility. One of them, it was, we don't want to have long meetings when we talk about everything because it's not my department. Paint and construction and mapping is just not my department. So simple advice. It's now we have the technology. We have WhatsApp, Telegram, Slack, anywhere. Which one is the easiest for you? Telegram. Okay, let's make different forums to talk about different topics. Half of the people were happy with that. Yeah. I mean, everybody was happy, but the people that felt it, they didn't get overwhelmed with all that information. So that's the way that I work. Because this, in my personal life, everything that it takes less than 5 minutes, I do it right now. If it's to fix, to move, if it's less than 5 minutes, I do it right now. And I think that there's so many changes that they're easy to make, but we're so used to work not right or in one specific way. Why are you doing that? Because that's the way that we were doing it. And that's it. We just assume certain traditions for normality when things are so easy to fix. Yeah. But also we have to be open for that.
Yeah, that's the main one. But I like the small fixes, right? Because it's these small steps. It's not these massive things you need to change. It's like these small experiences, because I guess that's what creates the trust on the teams. That's what creates the confidence. And it's always these actions that build on top of each other.
I was in India some time ago, and someone told me something really smart. Because I was in a Buddhist temple and said, okay, so how do you have a happy life? And he said, it's one happy day after another happy day.
It's very wise.
So easy, and it's so wise and so smart. And how do we fix a company? One little thing at a time. And these little tips and tweaks that we can do, they can change the entire group dynamic.
Yeah.
Same thing for, I've been on the same journey as you and the people that you work on the programs. It's not easy to be alone.
No.
Because sometimes we're like the hardest partners.
Oh yeah, we are the worst team. We can be the best team and the worst team. And I have this joke in my talks that you think you are alone when you are making decisions, but then there's fear that says this is gonna fail. There's anxiety that tells you you're going to live in the street in 3 months because it's not going to work out. Then comes your self-esteem that goes, I'm not good enough. I'm shit. And then comes the second part, which the last one, which is that the money beliefs that will tell you that I'm not going to ask for that money because I don't even think I'm worth that. And then comes the tax office, which you probably shouldn't discuss as a team member. But all of these things are there making decisions with you and for you. And if we don't acknowledge that different parts of ourselves are making decisions as a solopreneur, we're going to make the wrong decisions, because you can even have the best business strategy. Let's say you have the best product, you have the best service, you have the best operations, you figure everything out. And then you are afraid to go out to LinkedIn and knock on doors. You are afraid to get to the call with the client and ask for the money that you actually deserve. If you don't overcome this emotional blockage, if you are not open to change, if you are not acknowledging that this is also making a decision for you in your business, you're going to fail. So it's always about these decision and action and emotions, regulation, if that makes sense.
And how can you train that?
Step by step, exactly as you said. Step by step. You cannot go to, maybe you can, but can you go to a festival team and go, we're going to all change the way we are doing things around here? You're going to suffer a lot of resistance. Right? But you can say, hey, I'm doing the Telegram group. Let's see. People are happy. Great. One step. Then you can do a bigger one maybe afterwards. It's exactly the same logic here. One step at a time. Okay, you are afraid to talk to 10 customers? Talk to 3. That you are okay with failing, you know? If you gain confidence that you could talk to 3 clients, then you're going to be able to talk to 10. So it's always this small incremental steps. It's not going from zero confidence to be the most confident person in the room. That's not happening.
And I know that you have people from different parts of the world.
Yeah.
Do you see a difference in the way that they became entrepreneurs?
I see a commonality. I see a drive. I see a same drive, no matter if they are Turkish, Mexican, Spanish, Greek. Drive is there, you know. So there is something that I'm doing this, so differences. I don't think I see many differences because then it was very personal. I think what I see in common is not in common. I can see patterns how certain cultures hold on certain beliefs, and how does that gets present in how they make business decisions. So I think, for example, I see in women, I see a lot more self-doubt, which is insane because I'm seeing them also making like great decisions. They have the best strategy. They are the hardest working, and there is always in some women that I work with, I can feel that there is less self-belief than compared to men.
Okay.
For example, that it's something that I've noticed and you need to constantly point that out. It's like, no, this is freaking great work, you know. This is some sort of belief that is there. Men seem to be, now I'm on a very gender tangent, but I think men are more okay with going out and putting themselves out there and making, being loud, I guess, or exposing. I see some commonalities between people who grew up in high performance cultures, like really high performance, like, I don't know, more on the Soviet side or more on the Eastern Europe side, or they tend to be, it's never enough.
Yeah.
They do a lot of work. They are good at what they're doing, but it's never enough. So you push, and it's almost kind of not even a self-acknowledgement how great things they did to get there. That's one thing. On another thing, maybe if I look at Latino Americans or Southern Europeans, they tend to be a lot more comfortable with
average.
No, not that.
Okay.
No. Not knowing. Uncertainty.
Okay.
They are more comfortable with uncertainty. They are more comfortable with, I don't know what's the next step after the next. It's okay. You know, we are used to that, I guess. If you are for Central Europe or Northern Europe, you have a little bit of a hard time with that. You need to know the first and the second and the third step. Maybe you are okay not knowing the fourth, but you know. So it's funny to see these certain patterns. I mean, this is just all anecdotal, just observation from one person that works with a very small sample of people. So I'm not a sociologist by any means. Take this with a grain of salt.
That's great. And just to close, because we're already on time, if you have to give one advice of what to do and what not to do, what it would be?
In which regard?
Starting your own company.
Well, the first one is start early as possible, because the time that takes you to figure out things, it's unpaid work, and you need going to do a lot of testing and mistakes. People think they can figure things out really quick and start making money. That's not, I mean, maybe you are lucky, but most of us cannot. So the sooner you start, you have a job, start right away. Don't lose your job. Don't quit your job. Start while you have a job. Start while you have a part-time. Start while you have money. Don't depend on the money to start a business immediately. That's the first one. The second one would be, don't wait too long. Don't wait too long, and don't be afraid to try. Your first version of the business is going to be the most important because it's going to teach you the most. Is that the one is going to stick? Probably not. And that's okay. It's not a failure. So don't be too hard on yourself. Just do it.
Good. Ricardo, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Christian. It was lovely. Thank you so much for having me.
And everyone on the other side, here directly from Launchon Studios on the heart of Berlin. I'm Chris Burstein. See you next time. Most content creators hide the mess. We are not. We're real, we're transparent, and we are free. In order to keep on doing this, please subscribe, follow. It's nothing for you, just one click, and it really helps us.